have the power. Awakened, we have the power. And humanity is awakening. And like I said right at the start, understanding the problem is to understand the solution. And we're starting to understand the problem. I'll be back in half an hour. Thank you.
Hello, Wembley. What a day for throat infection. Can I just say before I start, a massive thank you to everyone that's bought the record and donated to Gaza. Much appreciated. Thank you kindly. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. Why not, eh? It's a song called The Island. Sunning up and I'm closing down. Shutters dragged down to the ground. I'm boarded up and painted white. Graffiti covers up the sides of life and take my hand, just feel love and feel loved. Take my hand, feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. These bright new lights jump to your grave. Fingerprints will still remain. But once you stood so tall and proud, the strongest gales can't drag you down to ground and take my hand. Take my hand, just feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. Be at, don't just speak out. Be at, don't just feel it. Be at, don't just speak it. Be at, don't just feel it. And you cannot be replaced. And you cannot be replaced. Raised up, take my hand, just feel love and feel loved. Take my hand, feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. Thank you, Connie. Cheers.
Oh, cheers, Gaza. You know that boy? He's not a boy. He's a man, but he's my boy. He was offered a lot of money to be supported to become a big pro, and the condition was he distanced himself from me and what I'm saying, and preferably changed his name. And off was the second thing he told them, hey? Fantastic. And what a frickin' talent. Now, I'm gonna bring this down to today, what's bloody happening now. So we sort out the wheat from the chaff and all this massive things that happens in the news every day. And when you see it connected, you can see what's going on. We've had the Archon hijack, I've talked about that, and how they feed off human energy, how they've locked us in this frequency field, frequency range, and how all these different aspects of society actually have the same master. And if you are deep enough in this web, then you can start to access what the projected future of this conspiracy is, and you can start to write novels that appear to be from imagination, but actually they're from knowledge of where the projected future is going. And when people like me have written books years and years ago, which about things that are now unfolding, it's really simple. If you can access the projected agenda and nothing comes to intervene in that projected agenda, then the projected agenda is going to happen, and therefore you predicted the future. But the idea is not to predict the future, it's to alert people so we head that future off. And that's what today's about, and that's what this section's about, because I'm relating it very much to today. That changed itself just by doing my shirt. That's a miracle. Of course, George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, 1984 and Brave New World, they knew each other. Huxley taught Orwell, real name Eric Blair, French at the elite Eton College, and they were friends, and they had access to this projected agenda. And I've been saying for a long time that Brave New World and 1984 were not from the imagination, not entirely anyway, they were from knowledge of the future. And that's why they've been so prophetic, so amazingly bloody accurate in terms of how things have unfolded. Now, one of the connections they had was into a secret society called the Fabian Society, which is behind things like the creation of the British Labour Party, also very active in Australia, and was behind the London School of Economics and all that. And the Fabian Society has a logo, a wolf in sheep's clothing, which actually gives it all away, really. It doesn't mean if you're in this Fabian Society, you're into the conspiracy, but the inner core knows what's bloody going on. And if you can get into that inner core, you can predict the future, and that's what those two did. Now, it wasn't just a story, 1984, it was knowledge of the future, and that future is now, and that's why so much is coming that he talked about. Now, I'm not going to go through all this, but I will pick ones out as I go through the various subjects. This is another example of this prior knowledge of this projected agenda. This is a guy called Dr. Richard Day. In 1969, he was a Rockefeller insider. He was involved, an executive of Planned Parenthood, which started out as a eugenics operation. I'll mention that as we go through, which again is connected in ways to the Fabian Society. And he stood up in 1969 to a conference of pediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He asked them to put down their recording equipment and not take notes, because he was going to tell them how the world was going to change. Why this guy did this night, no one seems to know, but he did. And one of the doctors did take notes and did some interviews later, saying what this guy had said in 1969. What he said is the world that is unfolding and we're living in now. And he said it in 1969, which wasn't a kind of million years ahead of 1948 when 1984 came out. But I'll mention some of that as we pick what he said, as I pick out different subjects as I go through. Now, what they are doing is manipulating us to either build or accept the building of our own prison and masquerade it as freedom, or protecting us from terrorism and all that shite. And it's systematic. This is a guy called Edward Bernays, and he is known as the father of what we would call today spin, social engineering, manipulating perceptions. And he said, we are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. In other words, understand how we create reality and interact with reality, and then download and program your version of reality that you want people to believe. It's systematic. And here is a wonderful example of it, Archon education. If only it was. control perception and you control reality, and you can get them as young as you can and plant their reality from the earliest possible age. Here we are, buses waiting to take inmates to the programming centers, because that is basically what they are. And teachers overwhelmingly have no idea that that's what they are. They're pawns in a game as well. They are passing on the curriculum and teaching in ways that they are told to teach, which is programming a perception of reality by emphasizing that and ignoring or suppressing alternatives to it. Einstein said brilliantly, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. What schools, what education should be in a natural order world is not how do we get children to be what we want them to be, but how do we get the best and the potential out of every child in their unique sense and unique self. That's what education should be. But like I say, we live in an inversion, and so we get the opposite of that. What we get is this. Have you noticed how they say, these politicians, about education, we must prepare children for the workplace. In other words, we must prepare unique expressions of all that is, has been, and ever can be to be a cog in a fricking machine for the rest of their bloody life. The system should fit us. We should not fit the system. So, J.D. Rockefeller, creator of the General Education Board in 1903, he said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. Exactly. It's what the education system's about. It's a sausage machine programming system. And this study here, I won't go into it for time, but what this study showed is the longer that children are at school, there's a massive decline in creativity as children have become less emotionally expressive, less energetic, less talkative and verbally expressive, less humorous, less imaginative, less unconventional, less lively and passionate, less perceptive, less apt to connect seemingly irrelevant things, dots, less synthesizing, and less likely to see things from a different angle. It's a program. And this is what is taught to children at school. What school teaches children: truth comes from authority, intelligence is the ability to remember and repeat, accurate memory and repetition are rewarded, non-compliance is punished, conform intellectually and socially. That's what it's about. And the very bloody fact that vast numbers of young people have been through this shit and they've come out awakened to the fact that they're not being told the truth is a wonderful example of the power of consciousness over program. School's out. Ah, the 6-week holiday. I'm out of prison. They're prisons. They're prisons. You have a few kind of years of out of prison when you're a little kid, and then you're in prison. Some bloody authority figures telling you when you can go for a pee. You see that thing the other day in America? They're saying that children can't go to the toilet during lesson time unless they have a doctor's note. These people are mad. And talking of mad, 2-year-olds should start school, shed Ofsted chief. What it should say is 2-year-olds should start school, says 2-year-old Ofsted chief. Bloody idiot. But what did Richard Day say to that doctors' convention in 1969? Schools will become the hub of the community. In other words, they will take more and more and more power from parents, which is exactly what's happening. Another thing he said, children will spend longer at school but learn less. That's the idea. State schools should offer 12-hour days to boost performance of poor students, says Department for Education. Preparing kids for the brave new world. And what they do is they lock people into the left side of the brain and they take them out of their individuality, their creativity, so they become cogs in the machine. For me, no child should go near school until the age of 6 or 7, and then school very, very different. They should play and they should let their imagination flow so their right brain is wide bloody open. There you go, the original PlayStation. Hey. And this bloke's going to have a few mentions in the next couple of hours. Bloody hell. Bill Gates. He's involved in this thing in America called Common Core. Common Core. Make everyone the bloody same. It's about imposing even more limitations on what we call learning and education, and more programming. And it's kind of the way they do it. Here's an example. They're saying in this test, change the sentence in a certain way. And the way the sentence is changed is made to read in a way that programs perception. This one, a president's job is not easy. He makes sure the country's laws are fair. Government officials' commands must be obeyed by all, and individuals' wants are less important than the nation's well-being. It's all putting this program. Now, I think an expert test taker would fill in the form something like this myself. And then we might get somewhere. Here's George Carlin. Here's a bumper sticker I'd like to see. We are proud parents of a child who has resisted his teacher's attempts to break his spirit and bend him to the will of his corporate masters. Thank you. Put that in the back window. I used to smoke pot and go to class, sneak in 10 minutes late with a bullshit excuse, slink down low behind at my desk, pray to God nobody asked me any questions. I was the best teacher ever. All right, there you go. And they're taking the piss now. What they're doing is putting people into a lifetime of debt to pay for their own frickin' programming. That's what they're doing. Look at these student bloody loans. You know, get into debt for the rest of your life, brackets control, and then you'll pay for your own bloody programming. Here you go, education. Be a good citizen, accept the program. Bollocks to that. Talking of programming, Archon Media. Control perception and you control reality. The media is owned by a tiny few corporations, which in the end are owned by the same network of families. And they're dictating and suppressing and dictating and emphasizing information and suppressing information that gives another view of reality. How to control what people think. Create or buy out major news agencies and TV channels. Only publish stories that promote your agenda. Maintain debate within a strictly limited range of views and subjects. Focus on traumatic events to keep the public traumatized and in fear. Label anyone who exposes your system and manipulation as a conspiracy theorist. And that's what they do all the bloody time. I tell you, conspiracy nuts. I love this one. For God's sake, Trevor, always you with that conspiracy stuff. I'm telling you, the man and the dog are definitely working together. And it just shows you how words, see what the media's doing, and most of them don't even realize they're bloody doing it, some do. They're telling you what you're looking at. So in Afghanistan, he's a terrorist. In Syria, he's a rebel, as long as he's not on Assad's side. In Iraq, he's a terrorist, and in Libya, he's a freedom fighter, right? They're all violent, bloody tossers. That's what they all are. And how you crop a picture. There's the picture. Crop it says one thing. Crop it says another thing. Manipulating is so easy. And then you get this manufactured conflict, as if we've got media choice like we've got political choice. So in America, they've got this lady called Rachel Maddow of MSNBC, left, Democrat, liberal. And then you've got Bill O'Reilly, so far out, he's outside the building in the frickin' street, he is. And they argue with each other and they all that stuff. And they give you the impression, oh yeah, there's some political debate going on. But there has a common theme and there is a common denominator. All of them, when it comes to the fact that there's some kind of conspiracy going on, are absolutely in total unison that it's all madness. There can't be any conspiracies. Including these two, Jon Stewart and Bill Maher, who's supposed to be like politically incorrect and political kind of satirists, But when it ever comes to the fact that there's something strange going on and something is going on we're not being told and we should know about, they're united in the fact that all conspiracy researchers are crazy. So Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Don't we see that in this propaganda against the poor and people like that in our society? Let's hate them and let's love the people who are oppressing them. Exactly what he's talking about. And then we have peer pressure. You see, when you've been through this propaganda, when you've been through this programming system, then it would be bad if you just took the programming yourself and left other people. I said many years ago, you know, the human race laughs at sheep, but we out-sheep the sheep because at least the sheep need a frickin' sheepdog to keep each other in line. We keep each other in line. Ourselves, we don't need any bloody outside influence. So peer pressure says, if you're speaking outside the norm that we've been programmed to believe in, then we're going to give you a hard time. And people are fearful and they keep their heads down and their mouths shut because they fear what other people think of them. I can tell you from long experience, it doesn't fricking matter. Individuality. You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at you because they're all the bloody same. And like I say, this perception programming is systematic. This is the Frankfurt School, social engineering. Came out of Frankfurt, Germany, the home city of the Rothschilds, with Rothschild frontmen and agents all over it from the start. Started out in Frankfurt, went to America, and this is what it was looking for. See if you recognize this society. The creation of racism offenses, continual change to create confusion. I stand for change. The teaching of sex to children, huge immigration to destroy national identity. The promotion of excessive drinking, emptying of churches, undermining any form of social cohesion, that means, I suggest. Legal system with bias against victims of crime, dependency on the state or state benefits, and then pulling them, gotcha. Control and dumbing down of the media, encouraging the breakdown of the family. That one, breakdown of the family, is in all of them virtually, of these social engineering documents. This is another one called Quiet Weapons for Quiet Wars. It was dated 1979. It was found in a copier, an IBM copier at a second-hand sale in 1986. And this is a document which is a manual explaining how you mass manipulate the perceptions of the population. And this is some of the things they say. See if you recognize this society. Media. Keep the adult public attention diverted away from real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Did I mention Simon Cowell? I think I mentioned him earlier. Schools, keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Yes. Entertainment, keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. I did mention Simon Cowell. Work, keep the public busy, busy, busy with no time to think, back on the farm with their other animals. And this is another list from the same document, absolutely devastating. Keep the public ignorant and you have less public organization. What's been the theme today? Keep people in ignorance. Create preoccupations and you lower defenses. Attack the family unit and you control the education of the young. Give out less cash and more credit, and you trigger more self-indulgence and social engineering data. Encourage social conformity, and you make programming easier. Minimize protests about tax, and you maximize the input of personal economic data while minimizing enforcement problems. Stabilize consent, and you will stabilize control. Tighten control of variables like individuality, and you have greater predictability. Maximize control, and you minimize resistance to control. Collapse the currency and you destroy faith in a country and each other. So, Archon mind games. It's all a bloody mind game, and there are various techniques that are used all the time to push this agenda on by manipulating our perceptions. Order out of chaos, 33rd degree of Freemasonry, order ab chaos. Order out of chaos. Create the chaos, then offer the order out of the chaos, which is what I call problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, get the reaction, do something, then offer the solutions to the problems you have covertly created. 9/11 led to the war on terror, multiple invasions of target countries, and Orwellian surveillance and loss of freedom at home. Problem, reaction, solution. Here's some words I put in Obama's mouth, some truth for a change. We fund and arm terrorists and then use them as an excuse to take your freedoms away. Works every time. This is how it works. So, 9/11, we have architects at the top of their profession who have joined together in large numbers to say, no way did those buildings come down as they were supposed to have come down according to the official story. The same with pilots who've got together and said there's no way those planes were flown as they were said to have been flown by, terrorists from the Arabic world based on learning how to fly Cessnas, or in many cases not flying Cessnas. One of their instructors said I was surprised they could drive a car. And this, I'm not going to go into 9/11, but I'm just going to pick out one thing just to show you, for anyone new to this, how this works. Just one aspect, and my goodness, I cooked for 9/11 for hours. A tissue, it all falls down. This is Building 7, also known as the Solomon Brothers Building, 47 floors, and this fell not being hit by anything, and it fell in the afternoon, in the late afternoon on 9/11, and it was said that it fell because fire destabilized it and it fell as a result of that. Well, that's the official story, but there's another story I'll come to. Now, this lady is a BBC reporter, and the picture you see is her in a live interview with a newsreader in London, in which she's saying on 9/11 that the Building 7 building has just collapsed, right? And as she's saying it's collapsed, it's still frickin' standing behind her, right? Now, what people say is, you're saying the BBC's in the conspiracy then? Well, or the inner core, yes. Most of it, no. They just don't know their arse from their frickin' elbow. I've been there. Now, what was this all about? What was this all about? When they're unfolding a scam, a manufactured terrorist event, what's running side by side is the propaganda going out in sequence with it. What they did was put a fact that had fallen out about half an hour or more before it actually did. They got out of frickin' sequence. And so it was reported before it happened. Look at this, a controlled demolition. This is Building 7, look at it. Falling in on itself. Absolute classic. And if we look at this one, just watch these red dots here when it changes, those positions. Look, there's the frickin' things going off and bringing it down. It's classic controlled demolition, which they said it was, like the towers, it was brought down by natural, if you like, things that destabilized it. Now, as I said, the official story is Building 7 fell because it was destabilized. But this guy, Laia Silverstein, some people call him Larry, but I like to keep to the truth. Laia Silverstein, he was one of the co-leaseholders of the World Trade Center, and he bought the lease just weeks before 9/11, and when he bought it, massively upped the insurance in the event of a terrorist attack. Now, this is what he said in an interview, which you can see on the internet, about the collapse of Building 7. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such a terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing is to pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and we watched the building collapse. Right, just a few little problems with that, Mr. Laia Silverstein. A, fire departments do not pull buildings. B, putting the explosives in the right place to let it fall in on itself in a controlled explosion takes weeks, sometimes months to put in there, not a few minutes, you fricking liar. You know what happened. Now, Laia Silverstein used to have breakfast every single morning, officially accepted, in a restaurant at the top of one of the Twin Towers. I think it's called the Top of the World restaurant or something. Now, can you just think what day he might have missed? Because he said his wife had got him a dermatology appointment. And he said it saved his life. No, what saved your frickin' life, darling, is you knew what was coming and you didn't give a shit. That's what saved your frickin' life. And what's that? No empathy, no remorse. Archontic personality. Attar, Muslim fanatic, according to his American girlfriend, widely quoted, he loved pork chops, used cocaine very liberally, and was anything but a Muslim fanatic. And this is Aaron Russell, award-winning film producer, and before he died, he started speaking out about the conspiracy and what he knew about it. And he told a story of meeting Nick Rockefeller. Rockefellers, Rothschilds, they're all involved in this. And how Nick Rockefeller tried to get him into the circle, recruit him. And he said this when he met Nick Rockefeller. This was about around a year before 9/11. He said that Nick Rockefeller told him there would be an event that would lead to the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, to take over the oil fields and establish a base in the Middle East. Rousseau would see soldiers looking in caves in Afghanistan and Pakistan for Osama bin Laden. There would be an endless war on terror where there's no real enemy. The whole thing would be a giant hoax. The people have to be ruled, he said, and the population reduced by at least half. Plans for mass microchipping of the serfs he also talked about. That's the truth. And of course, at 9/11, they put a memorial, classic frickin' Saturn, a memorial to the victims. And then there's another version of this, which I call no problem reaction solution, where you don't need a problem that's real, you need a perception of a problem that you can use as an excuse to offer the solutions. And they are climate change caused by human activity, global warming, they are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and all that stuff. All the time we are getting no problem reaction solutions as well. And the antidote to this problem reaction solution, create the problem, get the reaction, offer the solutions to the problems you've created, is who benefits? Who benefits from me accepting the official version of this? And invariably, who will benefit is anyone that wants to take on this conspiracy, this agenda, which I'm going to describe in some detail as we go along here. Alongside problem reaction solution, there's what I call the totalitarian tiptoe, where you go to your long focused goal, but you go in steps so you don't alert too many people of the direction you're going until you're there and it's a done deal, and then it doesn't really matter. This is a classic totalitarian tiptoe, where we went from a free trade area to a centralized fascist, communist, bureaucratic dictatorship, which we have now. And it was what we have now was planned from the start. But if they'd have said that at the start, people would have been outraged. So they've done it in steps, calculated. This is Jean Monnet, a founding father of the EU, they call him, and a Rothschild frontman. In a letter to a friend, the day after I was born, in 1952, Europe's nations should be guided towards the superstate without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will eventually and irreversibly lead to federation. It's been a stitch up from the start, and everything else is a smokescreen. So we went from the USSR, oh, USSR, fear, fear, to the EU SSSR. And the only difference is, really, that they've got a European Parliament that gives it the coating of democracy when it's got no power at all, and the rest of it is bureaucratic dictatorship. And another totalitarian tiptoe has been the constant expansion of centralization of power around the world, to the point where long ago it was given a name, globalization. And the idea is to create interdependence between all nations, so you have a loss of independence, of running your own affairs, because you are constantly in hoc or looking to other people to do things that you can't do for yourselves. That's the idea, interdependency. And this is the structure that they want. And the whole thing is about centralizing power. The more you centralize power, clearly the fewer people have control over more and more people. You centralize more, even fewer people have control over even more people. And what happens is, the more you centralize power, the more power you have centrally to centralize even quicker. And so centralization of power goes faster and faster and faster because of that sequence. They want a world government that would dictate to every country. In fact, they want the end of countries. They want a world central bank that would dictate all global finance. They want a world single currency that would be purely electronic, no cash, for which there are massive implications for freedom. If you go into a shop now and you ask for something and you say, I'll pay with a credit card, electronic money, and they say, no, sorry, won't accept your card, you can still pay cash. When there's no cash, what that decides dictates if you can buy and what you buy and all the rest of it. They want a world army to impose the will of the world government, and that is NATO. Way back in the 1990s, I was saying, watch for NATO starting to operate outside of the North Atlantic area as it expands itself into a fully fledged world army, and look at where it is now, all over the bloody place. Microchip population. They want a microchip population connected to a computer system, for which there are enormous implications. We'll get to that later. Obviously enormous implications. Under that, they want a series of unions. Not just these, they want a Middle East Union and others, but these are some of them. And they're all mirrors of the European Union. And by the time you get here to nation states, and they want to break nation states up into regions, they have no power whatsoever. And the power's moving more and more into so-called democratic operations like the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization, which are Rothschild, Rockefeller creations from the start, because they love us and they want to help us. And readers of my books over the years will see how I've been saying they want these unions all over the place, including the North American Union. And now you've got people like David Petraeus, the former head of the CIA and big military man, and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. I can't believe it when I see her. You are a politician, you make decisions, you can breathe. I can't work it out when I see her. Unbelievable. The fact that she's in high levels of politics shows how mad the world is. But what they're talking about now is introducing the North American Union. Exactly as people like me have been saying all these years. Not because we're genius, but if you know the agenda, you can predict the future for reasons I've said. And this is the virus spreading, this centralization of power. So then we come to the Archon Web, because somehow they have to globally construct and organize this. And all these different elements of global society end up with the same controlling force. And the way they've structured it is like a transnational corporation. You have a transnational corporation, whatever it is, and they'll have a headquarters somewhere. And then they'll have companies and subsidiaries all over the world, and the subsidiaries will answer to the headquarters. So you'll go into the same corporate bloody restaurants wherever you are in the world, because it's dictated centrally. And this is a global corporation made up of secret societies and satanic societies, etc. You have the headquarters is actually in Europe, and then in each country they'll have a network that it's holographic, because every part of the network is a mirror of the way the central part works. So here you'll have a network, say in the United States, of families and operations and secret societies whose job it is to introduce in the United States what's dictated from there. In Britain, you'll have the same. In France, you'll have the same. In Australia, you'll have the same. And therefore, this is dictating through this structure the same agenda, which is why the same things keep unfolding all over the world about the same time. This is an important group of organizations within that structure, which was created out of a secret society called the Round Table, which was set up in Britain in the latter part of the 19th century. First head was Cecil Rhodes, a massive Rothschild frontman, plundered South Africa for them with the gold mines and the diamonds. And then this Round Table created offshoot organizations which answer to that. Council on Foreign Relations, massively involved in American foreign policy to this day. The Bilderberg Group, a lot of people will know all about that. It was this organization that created the United Nations, especially the Council on Foreign Relations. The Trilateral Commission, that's another operation out of America. And this, the Club of Rome from the 1960s, was specifically set up to use the environment and threats to the environment as excuses to transform global society. That's where ultimately global warming comes from. So you've got these organizations that seem to be independent, but they're all answering to the same masters. So the idea is that you keep the population in ignorance of all of that, so they haven't got a clue how they're being manipulated. And you hoard the knowledge in the upper echelons of this structure. Archon politics. This system, this network that I've just described, spews out the bloody leaders that we're given to choose at elections. Do you want this mask on the same face or that mask on the same face? That's what politics or political choice has been reduced to. And of course, most of them are of this archontic bloodline or agents of this archontic bloodline who are basically psychopaths, and thus anything bloody goes. And so these people, like I said much earlier, are here today, gone tomorrow, frontmen for this hidden hand. I like that one. All these presidents of Republican or Democrat, they answer to the same bloody masters, and that's why nothing changes. The agenda goes on. The Bush and Obama example is classic. During the Bush years, the Bush administration was controlled by a group in the shadows, some not in the shadows, they were seen, called the neocons or neoconservatives. This was widely reported in the media. The Democratic Party is controlled by a group in the shadows and some not in the shadows, which I call the democons. I put Kissinger in the democons because he's advising Obama at the moment, but he's usually over there. This is the key. At the next level, the neocons and the democons answer to the same master. And therefore, whoever is here is answering to the same master. And that's why whoever is here, the same agenda unfolds. Change, 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 change. Him on steroids. So that's how it works. And it works like that in this country. It works like that in virtually every country. And so democracy and the voice of the people is an absolute illusion. Here's Obama Bush. There you are. There's the composite. Here's the world's first face transplant of success. There you go. That's how it works. You know, when people attack people for saying what's the point in voting, they're just showing they haven't got a clue. There's no point in voting because you're voting for the same force no matter what. By not voting en masse, you're saying we've sussed it, we're not having it anymore. We're not giving you credibility by supporting a rigged system. And then people say, well, so-and-so will get in. It doesn't matter, because they're all the bloody same. And the way they do it is this pyramid system. All political parties all over the world are pyramid systems. When you enter the political party, you've got to do what the political party wants to rise through the ranks to the top, become a minister or whatever. And if you go against the policy because you have a mind of your own, and you're not just a political bloody pawn or clone, then you don't get up there. So all the people that get to the top are the ones that have done what the system wants. And so the top of the pyramids are dictating to everyone within the pyramid. Anyone that's got a mind of their own, he's a rebel. He can't become a minister. He can't become a member of the shadow cabinet. And in this way, ultimately, although the vast overwhelming majority of these people have no idea this is the case, the same force is dictating through all of them. If not directly, then by controlling and manipulating the system they're operating in. That's a great line, isn't it? If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. Ain't that the truth? And so you get this, the march of tyranny. What it goes is, oh, I don't like them Republicans and what they're doing, I'm voting Democrat. I don't like what their Democrats are doing, who can I vote for? Well, you've only got the I'll vote Republican. Oh, I'll vote Labour. I don't like them. I'll vote Conservative. Don't like them either. Who can I vote? I'll vote Labour. So it fricking goes on. It's an illusion. If anybody can give me any policies that take Clegg and Miliband and Cameron off the same bloody postage stamp, I'd like to bloody hear them. And then behind that, you've got the legal system, which is imposing the will of the political system. I'm a judge, and that means I do whatever the government tells me. They're not all like that, but you want something that's absolutely not going to go wrong, you put a safe man in to have the inquiry. Lord Hutton on David Kelly, I rest my case. So, don't cheat, don't lie, don't sell drugs, don't kill. The government hates competition. And when you go deeply into that, especially in America, and don't sell drugs, you find that's exactly what they're doing through their agencies. Archon Hunger Games. This is now, we're getting into the society they want us to live in and the one we're seeing unfold by the day. And it's time to stop it bloody unfolding. Of course, the Hunger Games was this movie that involved a reality TV show, which was about terrible brutality. Every person for themselves, and the one standing had killed, or others had killed all the rest. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. Violence in the media and movies will be increased to desensitize people to violence and make them feel that life is short, precarious, and brutish. It's part of the social engineering. But the reason I call it the Hunger Games Society is in that movie, the society was broken up into sectors. Each sector was responsible for certain specializations. And then and these were all in abject freaking poverty, basically. And then you had the capital, where a tiny, tiny few people lived parasitically off the efforts of the poverty-stricken masses. And that's what they want. We had the elite in the capital dictating to the masses through a vicious police state. And here we have the Hunger Games in Britain. Woman in £1 million hat makes speech about austerity. Oh, what a load of bollocks it all really is. And have you noticed, my government. Now this is the structure that they are moving towards. They want a tiny few at the top that take all the wealth, have all the control, and all the benefits. Down here, they want the masses living in abject poverty as slaves to that elite. And the elite are the archontic bloodlines, and the masses are the human target population. And to hold that status quo, they need a police state that's going to impose it. That's what's unfolding before our eyes. And this is the Hunger Games society. And when I say the masses living in poverty, I mean the masses. Their target is not just those in poverty now. Their target is people who have a lot of money now, a lot of wealth now, who think they're doing all right now. They want the lot. If you're not part of this elite, then they want everything you've got. So you end up in the poverty-stricken masses. That's what's happening. And one of the great excuses for it, and engine rooms for it, is this total bollocks about human-caused climate change. Violin music, anyone? Here he is, Al Gore. Bloody hell, if he ever told the truth, he would genetically self-destruct. The big lie of Big Al. It's a scam, and it's a scam to change the nature of human society, justified by saving the planet, which these buggers are destroying. And look, it's become the new red in terms of communism. It has. Save the planet, be a slave. This is the head of the Green Party. Get rid of any cabinet ministers or senior governmental advisors who refuse to accept the scientific consensus on climate change, or who won't take the risks to the UK seriously. Well, what if they don't take you seriously, darling? How about that? And then you have this guy, chairman of the Common Science and Technology Committee. Frightening that he is, but let's hear what he's got to say. Ministers who question the majority view among scientists about climate change should shut up. The BBC give less airtime to climate skeptics, and its editors should seek special clearance to interview them. Appearances on radio and television by climate skeptics should be accompanied by a health warning or health warnings. And then you have this lady, Professor Kari Norgaard of Oregon University. Cultural resistance to accepting the premise that humans are responsible for climate change must be recognized and treated as an aberrant sociological behavior. This is where we're going, to shut up those exposing the lie. like this guy, how green zealots gagged professor who dared to question global warming. No A level for climate change denier. My son Jamie was told by his teacher when he was at school that if he said in his exam that he didn't agree with global warming caused by human activity, and he said so, he would not pass. That's the society that we frickin' live in. The Global Warming Survival Handbook by David de Rothschild. And all these blokes, they wheel these people out whenever they want a concert to bloody program the masses. Bollocks begets bollocks. Once you have the fact that human activity is not changing the climate in the way they say, then everything that comes from that must be bollocks in things that are done on the basis that they are. And it is. So, here are the greenhouse gases, the major ones. You would think that CO2, carbon dioxide, is here. You got to, the propaganda, it has to be. No, this is it. And the green bit is the only part that is from human activity. The rest is natural, and without carbon dioxide, we would not have a planet that we do. And that is water vapor and clouds. So we must tax and ban condensation. There we go. Now, this is Professor Leslie Woodcock, Empress Professor, University of Manchester, this great list of things that he's been responsible for. And he said this: water is a much more powerful greenhouse gas, and there is 20 times more of it in our atmosphere, around 1% of the atmosphere, whereas CO2 is only 0.04%. Carbon dioxide has been made out to be some kind of toxic gas, but the truth is it's the gas of life, inversion. We breathe it out, plants breathe it in, and it's not caused by us. Global warming is nonsense. And then there's this guy in Australia. I won't read it all, but the major part that he said, he used to be massively, yes, it's all true, and then realized it wasn't. And he says here, the theory was based on a guess that was proved false by empirical evidence during the 1990s, but the gravy train was too big with too many jobs, industries, trading profits, political careers, and the possibility of world government and total control riding on the outcome. Exactly. Now, here's the hockey stick. It just shows that suddenly, whoa, it's gone through the roof. We're all gonna die, start swimming. But what they did to create that hockey stick and that perception deception is they missed this off, the medieval warm period. All that time ago, 1000 AD forward, when the temperatures were much warmer than they are today. Where was the human-created carbon dioxide then? And then, after the medieval warm period, they went into the Little Ice Age through here up to the 1900s. And it was so cold, they had Little Ice Age frost fairs on the Thames. Now, when they say to you, oh, this is the warmest year since records began, it's good to ask, well, when did records begin? And loads of them started during the Little Ice Age, which gives a massively distorted view of comparison. This is the truth. From 1997 to 2012, and it's gone on now to 2014, temperatures did not rise. That's why global warming became climate change in the propaganda. Global warming, it goes up, it goes down. That's what it's always done. 7 years ago, Big Al said the ice cap is falling off a cliff. It could be completely gone in the summer in as little as 7 years from now. We are 7 years from then, and it's just increased by 43 frickin' %. And the scientists say that the greater ice is caused by global warming. Yeah, but this guy's bettered it. This guy's bettered it. French President Hollande, ISIS terror caused by global warming. Did you know the moon is made from fromage? And this comes from CERN. They found that there was virtually a perfect correlation between climate change and the penetration of cosmic rays into Earth's atmosphere throughout history. In other words, you can't be saying temperature is affected by the sun. That is crazy. Have you noticed they never mention the sun? Never mention it. It's CO2. It's the frickin' sun. Goes through cycles. That's why it goes up and down. And here's the Club of Rome, created in this network to use the environment to transform global society. Here's one of its founders, quoted in his own publication in 1991, "In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill." Thank you. Over and out. Here's Bill, one of the major in America and globally, one of the proponents of climate change. It's a terrible problem and it absolutely needs to be solved. It deserves to be a huge priority. Why don't you go download something, mate? Hey? And look, here we go. It's got into such fine detail now that the European Union is targeting certain hairdryers and lawnmowers to stop global warming. And we're back here, Nikola Tesla. All these people who are pushing global warming, the same people suppressing free energy technology by accessing the electric power that is all around us. So, I've put a few truth words into Gore's mouth here. Makes a change. He must be feeling very strange. I know it sounds strange to push global warming when there isn't any, but it's not about saving the planet. It's an excuse to transform global society. Thank you. Which brings us to this, Archon Agenda 21. This is the agenda for the 21st century, hence its name. And it is the plan to introduce that Hunger Games society under the name Agenda 21. Agenda 21, these are from its own documents of various kinds. Agenda 21 involves this: an end to national sovereignty, many, many sources of that. State planning and management of all land resources, ecosystems, deserts, forests, mountains, oceans, and fresh water, agriculture, rural development, biotechnology, and ensuring equity, i.e. equal slavery. The state to define the role of business and financial resources. Abolition of private property, it's not sustainable, except when they have it. Restructuring the family unit, everywhere you see that. Children raised by the state, straight out of Brave New World. People told what their job will be. Major restrictions on movement. Creation of human settlement zones. Get to them as we go along. Mass resettlement of people who are forced to vacate land where they currently live. Dumbing down education, mass global depopulation in pursuit of all of the above. And it was introduced at the Environmental Earth Summit in 1992, headed by this guy, Maurice Strong, an oil billionaire. I think he's now on the run in China, last I heard. And he said, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? This is using the environment to deindustrialize the world and create this Hunger Games society. And of course, he's a friend of Big Al, Big Lie, Big Al. Now, if anyone thinks that's, it's extreme, this is a map of America as desired and projected by the Biosphere Programs and World Heritage Program. And whenever you see diversity or sustainability or Agenda 21, they're just into connecting interchangeable terms. So the red on this map of America is designed to be core reserves and corridors with little to no human use. Can you imagine the numbers of people to be removed to make that possible? Then you've got all the yellow bits, buffer zones, highly regulated use. And normal use are just the green bits. Look at it across America, 300 odd million people. And the idea is to make vast, vast areas of land, ban it from human use and human activity on the basis of saving the environment, when what it is taking it all over for the less than 1%. And what they're doing with Agenda 21 is they're projecting it and promoting it as it being local. So you have all these different local Agenda 21s. This is one on the bloody Isle of Wight. Now they know what it's bloody all about. But actually behind all this individual, oh no, it's individual communities. Behind all that is the centralization of the whole Agenda 21 agenda through the United Nations. And it's a Trojan horse to introduce that Hunger Games society. And they're doing it through this structure I talked about, through into each community, into each country. And this is a word to watch for. This is a buzzword of Agenda 21, reset or reboot. Resetting society means transformation to Agenda 21. So, if you're going to bring this about, not just in America, but around the world, then you've got to start doing it, and you've got to start having ways of doing it. Now, the first one is take their money, and when you've taken their money, they've got no choice but to go where you want anyway. And so we have Archon money. And of course, bankers invariably certainly the major ones, are psychopaths. They have no empathy, they have no remorse for what they do to people, and they destroy lives. Here you go. I'm a psychopath and I run a bank. Oops, I repeat myself. So this is what they're doing. Type in £1 million. Congratulations, you just created £1 million just like a bank does. Crazy, of course it is. What we're doing, we're being deluged and submerged in debt on money that does not exist, never has existed, and never will exist, called credit. They're lending us money that doesn't exist and charging us interest on it. And when we can't pay it back because the economy's gone through no fault of our own, they come and take the wealth that does exist, like our house and our business or land. This is the real value of fiat money. Fiat money is simply money that a government has said has value and can be used as a currency of exchange. It has to be backed by nothing. It's just an IOU. That's all it is. You look on the English money, it says, I promise to pay the bearer. Well, why are you promising to pay me? You've just given me the money. It's an IOU, that's why. And so let's ask the audience, shall we? If all the money is created out of debt and lent, and that's the point, all our money, a whole currency, is created from the start as an interest-bearing debt. Why? Why aren't governments creating their own money interest-free? Why? Because governments are controlled by the same network that controls the banks. If all money is created out of debt and lent out with the application of interest, how can we pay it off? A, print more money. B, tax the poor. C, give banks bailouts. D, in the end, you can't. It's impossible. And this is why it's impossible. When you go into a bank and you lend, say, 50 grand, they type into your account 50 grand. It doesn't exist. It's just the fact that they can lend 10 times and, in fact, more to people that want to borrow money, 10 times more than they actually have on deposit. It's called fractional reserve lending. You only need a bit and you can lend a lot. This is why it's a scam. Anyway, you go in and you want to borrow 50 grand and they type into your account 50 grand. Fine. But you're not paying back 50 grand. You're paying 50 grand plus interest. And the interest is never created, just the principal. Thus, there is never, ever, ever enough money, real or what, in circulation to pay back all the debt and all the interest on the debt. Thus, people losing their homes, their businesses, their lives is built into the system on purpose. And when there's an expansion of the economy, all that stuff is hidden by Peter paying Paul. But when there's a contraction and money's taken out of circulation, it becomes crystal clear there ain't enough money in circulation to pay back all the debt and the interest on the debt. And what happens then? They take the wealth that does exist for money that has never existed. That's how it bloody works. Give a man a gun and he can rob a bank. Give a man a bank and he can rob the bloody world. And that's what they've fricking done. The Rothschilds, we are the banking system. When you control the system, it doesn't matter if this bank goes down or whatever, you control the system. When you control the World Cup, it doesn't matter who's in the final, because you control whoever wins, you still control the tournament, you still control the game. Nathan Rothschild, the guy that built up the Rothschild Empire in Britain, I care not what puppet is placed on the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. When we have one world electronic currency, whoever controls that controls the world. This is one guy who stands up to the banks, Bernie Sanders, senator in America. Congress doesn't regulate banks, banks regulate Congress. Ain't that the truth? That's how it works in this country too. Now, because you have the web, and within that web, you have the central banks like the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve. You have the European Central Bank. You control the governments. You control the reporting of your activities. You control the entire game. And so you turn the population into debt slaves who are beholding to you, who have lent them nothing. Financial crash, what this was systematically brought about to do was transfer, as it did, phenomenal amounts of wealth from the masses to the few, where money that the masses have to take responsibility for was hosed and poured at the banks and just went missing. Most of the bloody lot of it did. And so in that period, while the people were being crushed because the government said, oh, we've lent all this money, we're running out of money, we've got to have an austerity program. So the masses who took responsibility for the money given to the banks are now in an austerity program because of the money given to the banks. And the idea is to crush people, to control them. In America, in Britain rather, I don't know what the time is, it's bloody more now probably. 1.26 trillion in debt. That's just a recent figure, it's probably more now. In America, 17.6 trillion in debt. They'll never pay the bugger back. And thus they are in hock under control of those who have lent the money. And what they're doing with America, I've been saying it for decades, is they're destroying America so that America can be absorbed into this global system that I've just described. The United States is being financially dismantled step by step to come under the jackboot of the global government. And so, when you look at this Hunger Games structure that we're moving towards, but we can stop it, we will stop it. The idea is to pull all the people that are not there into this mass of global poverty and therefore control. And that's why there is a war against the middle classes all over the world. The middle classes being those that are doing kind of all right. They're not in real bad straits, they're doing all right. They don't want, and some of them are doing really, really more than all right. But if they're not part of the 1%, they want them as well. And that's why they're targeting all over the world what we term the middle classes in moving jobs abroad. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. He said there's coming the curtailment of US industrial preeminence. It's exactly what's happened. Now, talking about pulling everyone into the Hunger Games society, this isn't part of the elite few, that's what this was about. They're now calling them bail-ins. They've transferred vast amounts of money through governments from the masses to the elite, but there's still people who are doing okay. Well, they want them. So the idea of Cyprus was not to bail out the banks through governments, but to take money directly from the bank accounts of the banks, the people with accounts in the banks, and take that money. And a lot of people with a lot of money in those banks lost virtually all of it through this bail-in. And now they're saying all future banks will be bailed out by a bail-in. And there are examples after examples now of how they're changing the laws so that they can come straight into the bank accounts of people and just take it. Here's just a few. Taxman's plan for covert raids on family bank accounts is branded illegal, extremely worrying, and excessive. Plans could result in money being taken from innocent families, say experts. That's the frickin' idea. Belgian government applies retroactive tax and removes funds from citizens' bank accounts. Australian pensioners and savers have bank accounts raided by government. This is what is happening. And it's to pull in those people that are doing all right into the poverty-stricken masses of the Hunger Games society. Bail out, bail in, take your tax, I want all your money, all of it. That's the idea. So I say to people, If you think you're doing all right and your job's still paying well and you've got a big house and all that stuff, well, okay, look the other way. Ignore the people in terrible straits. Say it's not my problem. But remember that it will be your problem because they want you as well. Now, do you want to stand up alongside those in dire straits now, in unity, or do you want them picked off so they can come along eventually and pick you off? That's the idea. Talking to the Hunger Games Society, look at it now. US incomes, look at it, whoosh. UK property wealth, whoosh.